Well, 2 match days into December, some things don't change. Home wins, over 2.5 goals, over 3.5 goals, and both teams to score, yes, remain the profitable plays in the EPL. But the big difference is we have got a title race on our hands. This is a Betting Weekly Premier League show. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, alongside me, Nigel Seeley and Jack Wright. And one other thing that keeps rolling on, of course, is Jack's brilliant form. Another 3 wins from 3 on our midweek show. Nigel, if we keep following Jack's tips, this time next year, we will be millionaires.
Yeah, well, good afternoon. Yes, we will be. You get a great intro again there, and things never change. Night Seeley's as cold as ice. He didn't mention that. He didn't mention that as well. But luckily, the man Jack Wright has been keeping us in profit. I mean, we're slightly in profit of the year. I don't know if the results have been updated because we're recording this on Thursday. So we should be slightly in profit. But I'm telling you what, if it wasn't for Jack, we'd be in a real bit of a hole. So just need you said about goals going in. All the matches that I want goals, no goals, and all the goals I don't want matches. I just can't read. I can't read anything at the moment, right? But Jack, tremendous again. You know, really is in fantastic form. So long may that continue. And yes, this time next year we will be millionaires. And did you like the picture? It's good, isn't it?
Well, I don't know about my image, to be honest. I've got to, I'm 52, not 72. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you're the oldest of the gang, so you've got to play that role.
Maybe I should just be thankful that I wasn't portrayed as Uncle Albert. But there you go. Look, we mentioned the title race, and I'll get the boys' thoughts on this before we get into the plays for this weekend. Because look, Man City are minus 112 here, Arsenal plus 275, Liverpool plus 350, Villa plus 2,500. Jack, we'll bring you in. I mean, we've got a proper title race, haven't we, this season? I mean, does City still deserve to be favourites? I guess recent historical trends will tell us that they should be, but they are wobbling a little bit.
They certainly are, yeah. I think the one thing we definitely do have is a title race, and it's not just between two teams either, which has been the case. It's been Man City and Liverpool for a couple of years. Obviously, it was Man City and Arsenal last season, and generally speaking, City tend to come out on top. And we also know their trend is normally to ease into this part of the year and then kick on in the new year. But there's signs that say that might not well be the case this season. And they're uneasy favourites, to say the least. And I think Nigel touched on it. I saw his video on, I think it was on social media where he said it. But I think the liabilities are keeping City as the hot favourite or the warm favourites at the moment. And not necessarily the fact that what we're seeing on the pitch and the noises coming out of the likes of Pep Guardiola, who's normally not quite as forthright as far as his side's performances and chances are concerned as he has been recently. So really exciting. These late winners and dramatic turnarounds. It's already a super exciting Premier League title race. And we're nowhere near the end. We're not even halfway yet. So lots to look forward to, certainly.
What do you make of the title race as it stands at the moment, Nigel?
Well, I think everyone expects Man City to just go on that roll, as Jack said there, that run they had last year, the fantastic run that won the title, won the treble. I spoke to you off air, Dan. I think there's something going on behind the scenes at City. I think that's nothing all is well. I don't know if Guardiola's not happy, whether they're worrying about this financial fair play that's hanging over them, whether they think they may deduct points, or Haaland. He's been constantly linked with a move to Real Madrid. He doesn't look the same player. I know he scored 12 goals or 16 goals. I don't even know how many goals, but he's top of the Premier League scoring charts again. But he doesn't look the same player as last year. And when he's not on his game, he's like a petulant child, isn't he? Up front, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't really do much in matches anyway, and manages to score a hat trick. So I suppose if he's the vocal point and he's not off, then you are struggling a little bit. And I don't know whether what I've seen so far on the season. I think they're conceding too many goals really to be warranted minus money favourites. I mean, when you think of all the defenders they have, they're world-class defenders. The amount of goals they're conceding is an alarming rate. And the performance against Villa, I mean, they were completely and utterly outplayed, like to a level that I don't think they've ever been under Guardiola. Well, they haven't been under Guardiola. They were schooled, and that will take huge confidence from all the other teams, in and around them. The other thing as well is Liverpool have already been there, to City. So they haven't got the home game against Liverpool. Liverpool they've got to go to Anfield. To me, I just think that I've always thought that Arsenal were a false price in the market. And now I think that the false price in the market is Man City. I'm going to get right at the end. 5 teams, obviously. But I think the false price in the market is Man City. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see what happens. But I just don't think all is well. I don't think all is well at all.
Can we not play Villa at plus 2,500, Jack? Is he not going to be like a Leicester, but a better version of Leicester?
Well, it's happened, hasn't it? But I would be stunned. I think they're just so patchy away from home that they're not able to quite be that consistent enough. Top 4 would be absolutely massive for them this season. Let's not run before we can walk kind of thing. I think Villa, if they get into that top 4 or even top 5 as it might well be, that would be a huge season for them. I think they've got Europe. Possible cup competitions will be where their main focus comes later in the year. But this weekend, of course, Arsenal, that price won't be there if they do what they did to Manchester City, to the Gunners this weekend. So that might be one for those looking for a little bit of a trading opportunity. Yeah, not for me to win it, but just enjoying the ride at the moment. They're sensational last night.
Plus 175 to be top 4. Newcastle are shorter, plus 150. Nigel, if you had a match bet, Villa Newcastle.
Well, that doesn't make sense if you look at the outright the prices. I mean, Villa are 25 to 1 and Newcastle double 50, the price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people are expecting Aston Villa to either win it or completely bomb out the top 4. And that's pretty much how it's going to go. I think they are title contenders. I think you might see them trade at single figure prices at some stage this season because they don't look like slipping up at home and other teams do. And I just think that they've got so much confidence and they're young. And they're not frightened of anybody at the moment. And Villa Park is rocking. And I think they are. I think they really are. The only positive thing I can say about my performances in the last 3 or 4 weeks is 3 weeks ago, I did say they were 6 to 1 to finish in the top 4. And at the same time, Tottenham were minus 110. And I couldn't work out how the two of them were that price. So, at least something I've done right in the last 3 weeks. So yeah, but I think they've got a chance. I think everyone's got a chance because I just think the Man City price, if that's taking 55% of the book, there's got to be value on pretty much everybody else.
Let's get some picks, shall we, for the weekend action. We're going to start Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, Manchester United versus Bournemouth. Manchester United are minus 200, Bournemouth plus 475 here. United, Jack, had a huge XG against Chelsea. I think it was 4 or over 4. Could have easily been a 4-3, a 5-2 in their match against Chelsea. Are we predicting more chaos at Old Trafford in their game against Bournemouth?
Yeah, pretty much. I thought that was a huge result for them last night. And by all accounts, the performance was fantastic. It's a question of whether it was just one of those ones that Chelsea threw one in or Manchester United prevented them from playing well and performed exceptionally well. It was probably a mixture of the both, but certainly the best performance for a while from United, but they still conceded, of course, and that's where my bet is going down. You're right. I'm looking for a little bit of chaos in this one, as has been the case across the Premier League from the get-go, really. Both teams to score here is the play at minus 137. I think United, as good as they were last night and as well as they've played in patches over the course of the season, they're just so inconsistent. And certainly one thing that they've been pretty consistent with is the fact that they have conceding chances and goals. As far as Bournemouth are concerned, they looked in severe trouble and have done for much of the season, but it started to click a little bit for Iraola. So fair play as far as they've kept the faith there. Could have easily pulled the trigger. Most clubs possibly would have done. We finally obviously had a manager go in Heckenbottom this week, but it's starting to look a little bit better for Bournemouth now. They're picking up some good results and they go to Old Trafford with decent amounts of confidence and to an Old Trafford that isn't the fortress that it has been in previous seasons. So they've already lost 5 times in all competitions there. So I think Bournemouth and Iraola, especially the way they play, will look to go and be aggressive against them. Will look to go and create chances and score goals. And I think they will get on the score sheet. I think United will too, hence the bet. Bournemouth unbeaten in 4. They won 3 of those 4 as well. They've scored in their last 8 in all competitions. So they've got good process in that forward area. They've only failed to score in 1 road trip so far this season as well. And they've been to Liverpool, lost 3-1. Been to Brighton, lost 3-1. Been to Manchester City, lost 6-1. So the results aren't great, but I said that's not what we're playing here. We're just playing the fact that they'll concede and they'll score. So it's the fact that they can score is the main part here. I think United will get on the score sheet with the talent that they've got. And so they tend to find a way to do that. Bournemouth only kept their first clean sheet away from home last night against a really struggling Crystal Palace side. So I'm not too worried about the fact that they did that. I don't think that's a trend that we'll see continue. Both teams to scores cashed in 5 of their 7 away games this season as well. So that's a decent stat. And United have only kept 2 clean sheets in their 8 home Premier League games at Old Trafford. And they were against the might of Luton and our friends Wolves. And that was a fortunate one, of course, we know, right at the very start of the season. So, yeah, both teams to score, -137.
Speaking of Wolves, we go to Molineux next again, 10 a.m. Eastern Saturday. Wolves -115. They've been backed in a little, and they might get backed in more ahead of kickoff in their game against Nottingham Forest, who are +335 with the draw, +265. Nigel, Wolves have been good at home. They've been unlucky. A lot of our decisions have gone against them, but you are backing them to win this one.
Yeah, they cashed on the money line for Jack's pick against Burnley in the midweek with a 1-0 win. And I think they get the job done over Nottingham Forest side, who are coming here on the back of the worst performance of the season so far, that 5-0 humiliation against Fulham, a Fulham side that we thought we've been saying for ages, struggling to score goals. They get 8 goals in 2 matches. So, yeah, I think it's a real tough match for Steve Cooper, the manager. My brother's, I've mentioned my brother a few times. He's a big Crystal Palace fan. He was at Crystal Palace last night against Bournemouth. And he said that the Palace fans, he said it was the worst atmosphere he's seen ever at Palace. They were booed off at half time, that they were cheering through the second half. It was an absolute joke. But the rumour around Crystal Palace yesterday was Steve Cooper will be going to Crystal Palace as the manager. He's going to be sacked by Forest, and Hodgson might go. That was what he was saying. So this may be a reflection why that Forest aren't putting it in at the moment. The performances might be bad because Cooper might already know this fate, that his days are numbered at Forest. We know the chairman likes to sack people. And if it wasn't for the season we've been having in now, Forest would be right in the mix of the relegation battle. The 3 teams at the bottom are so bad and so far adrift from everybody else. I think that they're probably going to be safe, not because they're doing well, because the other teams are really bad. And that's the same for Crystal Palace. Hodgson's days look numbered as well. So that was quite interesting to come out of there. And I thought that must have a reflection of the performance. They don't go and lose 5-0. They're there. We know last season they had an absolutely terrible road record. This season, we thought when they went to Chelsea and won, they might have turned that around. But since then, they haven't won in the last 5 and failed to score in 4. I know their top goal scorer is out injured until sort of springtime, which is a big, big blow for them. Without him, where they're going to get the goals. And defensively, they look like a shambles. They, sold Johnson to Tottenham in the summer transfer. He was a big asset for them, especially on the road because of his pace. He sort of opened up defences. So I think they're here, Wolves, very underrated team, Wolves, I think, by the bookmakers. I think at home especially. They went to Man City. There is this tendency with Wolves that they seem to raise their game against the bigger teams. Obviously, Man City, they won that match. They've lost twice at home already this season against Brighton and Liverpool. But against teams in or around them at the bottom, they seem to do well. They seem to win. You would put Burnley on a similar kind of path as Forest. Burnley probably slightly worse, and the price is more or less the same. My only fear is not only my form at the moment, which is shocking, but that's one of my fears. My second fear would be the fact that there is some kind of bounce back with teams when they lose 5-0. I always want to try to get with the teams that have lost heavily because the following week they work hard. But if this rumor is true that Cooper's could be going, then that goes out the window. It will be like, I'm going, so what? I'm moving on to pastures new. So that's the reason I'm playing here. We'll have to see about these rumours to Palace, but it does make some sense really when you think about it. He is a good manager. His days last season when he had a tricky spell at Forest, it was heavily bet to be the next manager to go, and then he sort of survived. I don't think he's going to get another chance under this owner. So that performance could be the end for him, but it could be a move to London for Cooper. And I think Wolves here, given their form, given the circumstances at Forest and the way they are defending and the way that they can't score, I think Wolves are a good bet here at -114 to win, or -115 now to win at home on the money line against Nottingham Forest.
Forest +500 to be relegated. We're not quite sure what's going to be happening with Everton, their appeal and so on and so forth. And as Nigel points out, there's probably 3 worse teams, isn't there, than Nottingham Forest at the moment. We'll watch with interest when it comes to that managerial situation. Yes.
Have you got the next manager to go odds there? I did have a look this morning.
There is nothing up at the moment.
Okay. I looked earlier and I think Cooper was like 1 to 8 and Hodgson was like +600, something like that. The only thing I thought that might have been a play for Hodgson, because I saw all the stuff coming out of Palace last night, bottles being thrown at him and him calling the fans out a little bit, is that they play early on Saturday, don't they? So they kick off first. If they get
so the timing of it could
well be,
potentially push it
yeah.
towards a Hodgson exit first.
They do play before Forest, so that could well at the prices that might be worth a little interest if it's still there. So that was when I did have a quick check.
Yeah, I did have a
thing
look,
this
and there's
morning.
nothing at the moment. But I mean, it's well worth
Yeah.
having a look. And obviously, you could probably find a managerial change price somewhere. But
It'll
that's a
probably pop
fair.
up after the game tonight, won't it, as well?
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing. Yeah, there's 2 games tonight, so markets will be revised and so on. So worth looking out for that. Good spot. Brighton Burnley, which is a 10 a.m. Eastern kickoff here. Brighton unbeaten in 6 at home. Burnley have lost their last 5 away. This points to a home win, but they're minus 195 here. Brighton, Jack. Burnley plus 500. The draw plus 360. So we've got to try and build in some value potentially. How are we going about that for the game at the Amex?
Unsurprisingly, with Brighton involved, I'm going down a goals route. So yeah, Brighton to win and over 2.5 goals is the play in this one. I wanted to fade Burnley. I mentioned it on the show at the start of the week. Hence the play on Wolves. That Burnley just, I'm not impressed by them at all. Goes without saying when you look at their performances and their results, but I've kind of been against them since the start of the season because I had a feeling that with the massive change of players that they brought in and the style that company wants to play and insists on continuing to play, that's just a recipe for disaster at this level, and it's proven to be the case so far. We saw it again in midweek. Wolves should have won that game more than 1-0. They dithered around a little bit, and we know what we get with Wolves. They haven't got that cutting edge to go and score 3 or 4 goals, so you do live on the knife edge a little bit with them. So I expect Brighton to be a lot more clinical in those forward areas and probably get a lot more chances as well. This looks like a perfect stylistic matchup for Brighton for me. Burnley will play the same way. We know what they do. They look to keep the ball. They look to play out from the back. They take lots of chances at the back. They've got a young goalkeeper, James Trafford, who's 21 years old and made his kind of name in the lower leagues on loan last season and then for the England youth side and plunged straight into a Premier League side that are going to struggle. And you can see he's a little bit nervy. The pressure's getting to him a little bit, and I expect Brighton to set a few traps for this Burnley side this weekend and Burnley to fall into them because that's kind of what they do. And so I think they'll engage with Brighton, which will be a recipe for disaster. And I think Brighton could well have a field day in this one. Burnley lack the Premier League quality to be able to do that, and they're going up against a Brighton side that have sort of struggled a little bit. It was a massive win for them in midweek. They beat Brentford, of course. Brentford are a better side than Burnley. That goes without saying. So it was a big win for Brighton. But of course, it was 2-1. So that bet would have cashed here. We know what we get with Brighton. They score goals. They can see goals. And that's kind of the pattern that I'm looking for here. Both teams to score landed in 19 league games now across all venues for Brighton. So that's the last 19 both teams have scored. And they themselves have scored in the last 31 Premier League games across all venues. So I think, I say, they will have a field day against Burnley and they might well concede, which isn't a problem for this bet because I think they get 2 or 3, if not more, in this one. And therefore, Brighton and over 2.5 goals at minus 103 is my play.
Yeah, it's incredible that both teams to score stat every single game so far this season in the Premier League. We like Brighton to beat Burnley and over 2.5 goals at a shade under even money. Villa against Arsenal next, 12:30 Eastern on Saturday. So 5:30 local. Villa plus 235. Arsenal plus 112. Draw plus 265. Nigel, Villa were brilliant against City, as we referenced at the top of the show. In midweek, thoroughly deserved the success. Aston with a 97th minute winner away at Luton. Villa, we know, brilliant at home. They've got this opportunity to break their record. It would be a new club record if they could go 15 wins in the top flight. They've won their last 14. Do we play Villa on the money line? Just give us your thoughts on the money line prices first. I mean, Villa plus 235. Should they be a little bit shorter? What do you think?
I think that if anybody had watched the two sides this midweek and anybody had watched what we've seen this season, you would think that Villa would be a little bit shorter, in my opinion. The fact that Arsenal obviously will attract the money because of their name, stateside. Arsenal will be a bigger name for public bettors than Aston Villa, suggests that they don't want to go too big a price because their liability will be the same if they went the price they currently are. I think if you look at the what we're seeing on the pitch at the moment, there is a case to say this is probably a fit pick and match, like, you know, 7 plus 175 each side. I mean, I don't see any reason why Villa should be bigger than 2-1 to win this match, and Arsenal be a very heavy favourite. So I would have thought we would have seen a pick and match. There are things we have to take into consideration now. Villa are being talked as title contenders. Can they handle the pressure? That's something they're not used to. So the public will be, the media will be all over them this week after the Man City win. There'll be question marks in every press conference to Emery. Can he win the league? So it's a totally unlikely sort of situation they're ever going to find themselves in. There's a lot of subplots as well. Emery obviously up against Arsenal. Martinez, the goalie, released, you know, and Arsenal would give the right arm to have him back now.
It's a great shout.
I mean, so there's a huge amount of subplots here. I mean, Raya is the weak link for me. I mean, I think Dracula's more comfortable with crosses than Raya at the moment. I mean, that is absolutely he's awful. But I mean, I don't know. Ramsdale, will he be daring and put Ramsdale on? But you think about how much that match against Luton emotionally would have taken out of Arsenal. And we're going to talk about Luton as well. But that match, you saw the celebrations at the end. It was like they won the league. It was crazy. And that's winning a team where you're minus $5. You know, you're going like that. It's insane. So that would have taken a huge amount of them. And then they're going to the hottest place, to the most difficult place in the Premier League to get a result, and they're heavy favourites. Villa were exceptional. We talk about it, how good they were. But if you look at the XG, look at the stats on that match. They contained Manchester City, the best offensive side, to 2 shots in the whole match, and they had 22. I mean, that is just unheard of. Man City have never seen that. Is it because Man City had an off day, or is it because Villa are the real deal? I think it's a bit of mix, both of them. You know, this is a very young Villa team as well. I mean, they're going to get better and better. That Arsenal shaky defence, I mean, that's a huge concern, and the goalkeeper here. So I think Villa are definitely the value. I can't be so bold to bet them on the money line. I wouldn't put anybody off taking them at plus 2, bigger than 2-1. I wouldn't put you off that. But I think the double chance here is a lively bet. I think Arsenal will look at this match and think, if we get a point here, we've done well here. And I think the double chance, Villa on a double chance at minus 120 is where I want to go. So we cash if Villa do win, or if it's a draw. We're essentially becoming the bookmaker and taking Arsenal. You know, we're effectively taking a bet on Arsenal at plus 120 here. So we're taking minus 120 on the draw, and we're getting a Villa win as well, because I do think the odds are wrong. I do think they're wrong, and I think they're not a true reflection of what we've seen in recent weeks in Villa. I mean, they have been sensational. They're the informed team in the Premier League, and a win here for Villa. If they win this, they're down to 14-1 to win the Premier League. And if Liverpool do slip up against Crystal Palace, which is a big if, then, you know, they could be 10-1 to win the Premier League. So this is a big match. Emery, former club, he's going to want to do one on them here, and I think Villa are flying, and that crowd will be under the lights as well. 5:30 kickoff, going to be a big factor. I think Villa don't get beat.
Yeah, Leon Bailey was. No, I said Leon
Jack,
Bailey was so good last night, and he's going to be obviously attacking down that kind of troublesome Arsenal left-hand side. I thought the midfield was brilliant as well, how they took the ball, and they were positive with it as well. Watkins' work rate up front was exceptional. Martinez, a real safe pair of hands. And that whole end at Villa Park are going to be all over David Raya, as Nigel's mentioned there. They're going to give him a right going over, or even if it is Aaron Ramsdale, because we know that he's a little bit uncomfortable with the ball at his feet, or it's been made out that way as well. And of course, no Mikel Arteta on the sideline either. He's suspended for this one, so they won't have that driving force in the technical area. So that's a big part of it as well, I think.
An awful lot of storylines to this one, as Nigel and Jack have pointed out. Since Unai Emery took over, 17 of the 20 home games have been 1x plus 862 if you've been level staking that, and we're playing the double chance again. So home win or the draw, both on our side in the big game at Villa Park, 12:30 Eastern on Saturday. One more game to look at. The boys have both got to play in this one. It's Luton versus Manchester City. This is our only Sunday selection, 9 a.m. Luton are huge, plus 1,600 if you thought Arsenal was short at Kenilworth Road. City are shorter at minus 715. The draw plus 800 here. The goal line is set at under and over 3.5 here. Jack, we'll go with your play first. We've mentioned that the champions are wobbling a little bit. Just one win in their last 5 in all competitions. And they are conceding as well. No clean sheet in 5. Talk us through your play first up.
Yeah, the play's over 1.5 first half goals at -118. It's a play that I did have on Manchester City a couple of weeks ago when they played Bournemouth, albeit at home, which was super confident then. And it's been an angle in for these games that I think are one-sided. The first half does tend to be a little bit sort of get a little bit more value in it, be it you want to go under or over. And so I just have a feeling about this one that there needs to be a early start for one of or both of these two sides. Luton, obviously, heartbreak from that last second goal conceded. Looked like they were going to get a point. And sometimes they looked like they were going to get 3 points against Arsenal. And they certainly gave as good as they got. Rob Edwards has come out and said that they should take massive amounts of positives from that game. But how do you react from it? That's the problem. I think both physically and mentally, this is going to be a strain on them. They've had a real tough week. And the main part I'm going for here is the physical side of it. Is the fact that they've been chasing the ball a lot of the time over the last 7 days. Brentford, they only had 31% of the ball. Arsenal, they had 33%. And we know what they're going to get with Manchester City. And for Manchester City, they've obviously got 2 key things here. Yes, we've talked about how they were battered by Villa. Need a response. Pep talked it after the game that he needs to find solutions and ways around it. And also they can bring in 2 key players who weren't involved in midweek action. Rodri, we know, is pivotal for them in the middle of the park. But against his Luton side, it will have a low block. They'll sit defensively, try and keep it tight. Jack Grealish can come into the side, a player that can go past and draw in challenges and create space for others as well. So I think those 2 things are key for them. And we mentioned him, Haaland, on a goal drought now, 2 games without a goal. So that's terrible for him. But he had scored it plenty prior to that. So he's got 14 for the season in the league. So can't be complaining too much. But he does look angry. And it either goes one of 2 ways. It either goes the fact that he kind of goes anonymous, or he takes that anger and frustration out on a side. And there was talk, especially in Germany, that he was a little bit of a flat track bully, that once the lower ranked sides come up, that's when he went and filled his stats out with hat tricks and so on. Wouldn't be surprised to see him get a brace or more in this one. And so I'm going with the early side of things, because I think Luton will need to go for it because they're going to run out of steam during the latter part of the game. And we saw them against Liverpool having a bit of a go. Set pieces, crucial for them. And they need to get a foothold in the game, and they'll need to look to get something on the scoreboard early if they're going to get anything from the game. If not, Man City will grind them down eventually. So that's the side of it on Luton. And I think Man City will want to put a statement out here. And if they were in good form, they'd probably take a bit of a narrow win. This one, I think they'll need to say, hang on, we're still in favourites for this title race, and put a bit of a statement out to the challengers. So yeah, over 1.5 first half goals, -118.
Fast start for City predicted by Jack. And Nigel, variation on a theme. You expect City to be dominant here?
Yeah, I do. I pretty much agree with everything Jack said there. I think that Luton, obviously, that heartbreak against Arsenal, 97th minute. I mean, that would have taken it. If you were the squad, you were Jurgen Klopp and you were Liverpool, you'd be hard to pick your team up. But this is Rob Edwards against Luton. You know, the smallest squad in the Premier League, the most inexperienced squad in the Premier League. And, you know, that effort. And then you've got to play the champions, sort of 4 days after. That's a huge turnaround. And this is the worst match that Luton could possibly have had here. I really do. And I think this is a wounded tiger. I think City go here and just, right, okay, we're gonna show who's boss here. And every time Guardiola's had a problem in his Man City career, he's bounced back in some kind of style. This is probably the longest spell of winless matches they've had in the Premier League under the Spaniard. But every time they've had a problem, they've come back and scored 3, 4. And I just feel that Luton here are going to run out of gas. They're going to run out of legs. This is where the games come quick and fast over Christmas, and the squads and the real title challengers move up the table, and the teams at the bottom get left aside. And I think this is a really tough ask for Luton. Obviously, Rodri's back there. You said Grealish is back as well. 2 players. Whether Grealish starts or not, I think he probably will. But you know, you got to remember as well, Luton have had heartbreak against Liverpool at home as well. That was another game. They were not 90 minutes. They were back 1-0 up, and then they let a goal in right at the end as well. They can't keep doing that. They just can't. They haven't got the players to do it. They haven't got the squad strength to keep doing it. And I just feel it's going to be a struggle for them. This is the first time these two have met since 1992. You know, in the top flight of division, back in February. and an act that me and you are it's Jack's favourite song, actually. It's an act that me and you, Dan, do our tribute act to. Wright said Fred were number one with I'm Too Sexy. Jack Wright, it was I'm Too Sexy was number one, wasn't it? And I think there's only going to be some sexy football, and that's going to be from Manchester City, and Manchester City win easy here. And I'm going to go for Man City -2 on the Asian handicap at -132. And that is a push if Man City win by exactly 2 goals. I expect the champions to show their class, and to play a Luton side that must be done after the Arsenal match. They must be absolutely done. And I think this could be a very, very heavy winning scoreline for the champions.
You're right about Pep Guardiola. Just looking at the stats, incidentally, City winless in the last 4 in the top flight. That equals their longest run without a league victory under Pep Guardiola. Also 4 games, March to April 2017. So spot on with that. So just one final word on Luton. I mean, I was there at Kenilworth Road on Tuesday. I mean, the atmosphere was fantastic. It was only 11,000 in there. It's a hodgepodge of various different stands. And it's the last time I was there to work was back in 2001 when I used to cover Wickham for local radio. And the press bit where I was not changed one bit in 20 odd years. Can they stay up, though, do you think? I mean, they're a short price for we're recording ahead of the game that Everton play. So they could be in the drop zone by the time this show comes out. I mean, they're -400 here. I just think, you've been talking, Nigel, there about, near misses against Arsenal, against Liverpool in terms of getting over the line with wins or draws. They look to have, to me, a lot more about them than I thought that they were going to at the start of the season. I was thinking Derby-esque points total, but that's not the case. Can they stay up?
I don't know if they can. I think that's going to inevitably take it out of them in the second part of the season. Their squad is so thin. They're not going to spend money in the transfer window like other teams in or around them will do. You would expect Burnley, with the money they have from the American bettors, backers, to be able to spend some money and bring in some quality players. Sheffield United, I think they've got no money, so they're gone. I just think Luton are just going to. They're like a soldier, aren't they? Going to war, gone into too many, or a boxer. They've been gallant. They've been superb in their title defences. They've gone on the ropes. It's lost points decisions, and then all of a sudden they've got nothing left. And I just feel that's where they're going to be. I think these matches, the one against Liverpool and the one against Arsenal, will take its toll. And the good thing for them is there's a break over in the New Year, so they can have a little bit of a recharge. But they haven't got the squad, have they? They haven't got the squad. So I think I do fear for them.
You do sense, Jack, as well. Yeah, they just needed to get over the line with one of those results. They just needed to win one of them. Even the Spurs one, wasn't it, where they were beaten late on in that and had chances to win it. I mean, it's just maybe going to be beyond them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. The odds reflect that, don't they? I wouldn't back them at that price because they've got to use Nigel's boxed analogy, a bit of a puncher's chance. Because at home they are physical. They will put sides under a bit of pressure from that bombardment, but you just feel that the other sides have got enough about them and say to get out of trouble. And unfortunately for them, we keep talking about sides that are going to get drawn into it. They just seem to pick up a couple of wins. Fulham being the latest ones to have done it. So they couldn't score a goal. They can't get a win. And as Nigel said, they scored 8 goals in 2 games. And then they picked up a couple of wins over that period of time as well. So it's, I think they just need someone to have a real problem. Forest, obviously the ones at this moment in time are getting sucked into that. So while there's other people down there, they have got a chance. But yeah, if I had to say, will they go? I would have to.
Let's get some best bets before we wrap up. Nigel, what's your best play over the course of week 16 of Premier League action?
You know what? I'm actually, for the first time in weeks, I'm actually very confident all 3 of them, actually. And that's that. My confidence hasn't been as very high over the last couple of weeks, but I'm quite confident. I think, do you know what? That's a difficult one. I think I'd have to go for Villa. Double chance, -120. I think so.
Jack, what's your best play? I'm not saying a word. Jack, what's your best play?
I'm going to go for the Brighton one for me.
That's the best bet on the weekend card. Let me put it that way.
Brighton
to beat Burnley for 2.5 goals at -102. That is absolutely nailed on.
Your run, Jack.
If I can take that curse on board, I can do anything.
We will not be millionaires now.
Oh, dear. Now then, thanks to Rodney and thanks to Rodney and Del Boy. Nigel and Jack, thanks for your company. Good luck with your picks. That is a wrap for week 16 of Betting Weekly Premier League show. We'll be back next week for all the best bets on the EPL card. as December gets even busier, and stay across all of our Betting Weekly content via @BecauseWeWin, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. From all of us, for now, it's goodbye.